talk about the buffer zone policy. It's supposed to be doing a couple of things. Now, the buffer zone policy is a policy which aims at ensuring that all designated buffer zones along rivers, streams, lakes, reservoirs, and other water bodies shall be sustainably managed for all. It also supports international efforts to protect and manage buffer zones. The document serves to clarify the requirements for water quality and quantity. It outlines a national policy on buffer zones. That's what we're getting there. And I'm sure if we move on to the next slide, we will find what else the buffer zone policy is talking about. Well, true. Let's get into a conversation now with Mr. Francis Gabra. He is the chairman. Gabra is the chairman of the National Union of Aquaculture Associations. Chief, good morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. Good morning.
In detail, tell me, what is this national buffer zone policy?
Okay, let me say good morning once again to your viewers. And then before I start, I would like to give credit to BUSAC. BUSAC stands for Business Sector Advocacy Challenge Fund. And they are the ones that are sponsoring us to embark on this advocacy. So back to your question, what is the buffer zone?
Right.
A buffer zone is actually a policy that has been created by the government and other stakeholders to be enforced along all the water bodies and the river systems in the country. And in short, it's a little, it's a section designated by the government which is away from the banks of any water body. And within this section, we are supposed to be planting trees, doing some vegetation to make sure that, whatever comes down the hill or whatever human activities induced does not affect our water body, and make sure that at least we still maintain the sanity and the quantity and quality of the water body. So that is exactly what.
Why has it been difficult, for example, to get this policy enforced? There's a fragmentation of the regulation. There's a dormancy in some cases.
Yeah.
Why is it difficult now?
Well, like they say in everything that's about this country, when it comes to the law, we have a lot of allies, but implementing them always becomes a challenge.
Why so?
This one is very difficult because, to begin with, I don't think even many Ghanaians know anything about a buffer zone. And that's why we have embarked on this advocacy, to make our voices clear, to let people know that the water is life. It belongs to all of us. And there is a zone that, induce human activities such as logging, galamsey, and the rest of it should stay away from, we should try and stay away from those things. So back to your question again, the reason why it's so difficult to implement is because many people don't know about it.
There's a ministry for fisheries and aquaculture,
yes, sir,
which would have to look at some of these things.
Yes, sir.
What is the
is embarking on, we've actually started making contact with a lot of stakeholders. Fisheries and aquaculture is one of them.
Right.
The most important of all is Water Resource Commission,
right,
because they are the ones in charge of the airline. They are supposed to review it periodically and make changes to suit whatever we have today. And then EPA, of course. We also have other stakeholders like our fish farms, of course. So we are the ones doing the advocacy. So we are talking to all these stakeholders so that we can all be on the same page in trying to push forward this policy.
The relevance of this policy to human society will be what?
Oh, water is life. I mean, not quite recently, but I mean, a couple of years ago, I think we all stood up against galamsey. And some of the rivers are coming back. They are improving.
Or so it seems.
So it seems. So at least we have to make sure that we maintain not just galamsey alone. We have illegal logging going on.
Right.
We have
poor
agricultural practices. Yeah, overpopulation, urbanization. All those things do affect the quantity and the quality of water. So it is in our all interest, for future generations, to make sure that we safeguard what we have right now for future generations.
What's the plan to safeguard? What's the plan?
The first thing is to make sure that at least this buffer zone policy is implemented. That is a good start. Then the other thing would be the government and the policeman cannot be everywhere. So we all have to be very conscious about, you know, the water bodies that we have currently and protect them. You know, instead of dumping boiler in it and not taking care of it because nobody's watching you. I don't think we are doing any service to the nation when we do that.
Right.
It behoves on all of us to contribute to this.
This is not the first time you are making this call.
Yeah.
I remember in 2015 you asked that we have a zonation policy.
Exactly.
So that it will help us, you know, get some more money across nation and all of that. What's the assurance that this one will work?
Oh, the zonation is working now.
This one, the policy. What's the assurance?
We can't give up on anything. Everything requires baby steps, right? This is a policy that nobody has drummed home and really, you know, made it loud and clear that we have a policy of that sort. So we, by the help of BUSAC, trying to do this advocacy, it's a first start. You know, you can't completely discount it, but this is not the end of it. This is just a start, and then with more funding from BUSAC, I think we will embark on a larger program to make sure that it gets everywhere in the nation.
The people who live closer to these water bodies are beginning to sell the banks because to the highest bidder.
Exactly.
People want to build on the waterfront.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the plan?
Well, we have governmental agencies who are supposed to enforce the law. The first problem is the land tenure system in the country. I mean, some of my farmers are having big time problems because there is not a very cohesive and good way of trying to get land along the riversides, especially the water, to embark on aquaculture. So everybody gets up and then, you know, they cut a piece of land for you. Even on the river, they tell you this part belongs to me, so you pay me such and such an amount, and then people start the activity over there. Whilst we have policies, you know, that, you know, we have to go to the district assembly and then go through the Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture to obtain these licenses. People have taken upon themselves this, the law into their hands to demarcate pieces of land for people. It is basically wrong, and the appropriate law enforcement must see to it that, you know, these things don't happen. It's going to be difficult, but, you know, I think starting with this policy, that will let them know that, look, maybe 20 yards away from the bank of this river does not belong to you.
What does the law say?
The law is very, very, it's not direct. We don't, even we, the fish farmers, don't know how far it is away from the water.
What does your policy say?
What I'm trying to say is that, if you look at the act itself, it doesn't break it down and tell you that this is exactly how many feet. It just mentions buffer zones. And when you go to my area where we do the fish farming, there is no indication that tells us where the buffer zone is. We don't even know.
So you use discretion to decide that this should be a buffer zone.
Which is wrong, because
have you called for a standardization of our buffer zone?
Yeah, that is what we are trying to do. Exactly, that is what we're trying to do.
What do you propose?
Well, our proposal is for the Water Resource Commission, which the Act is Act 522, Section 35, to sit down and look at this Act and then try to reorganize it and put in specific figures, you know. It's going to be difficult because it depends on the topography of every area. And then, moreover, some of these water bodies have already been inhabited by the people along, so we cannot use the stick. We have to use a little bit of carrot to go in and convince them that, look, for the betterment and for the good of society and for the entire nation itself, I think you need to stay away from here. And we'll plant some trees and vegetation. Can you imagine what even it can do, the domino effect of this policy? We can put a lot of these guys, the youth, to work, planting trees all along the water bodies in the country. And then through that, you know, other jobs will follow, like maybe the wache seller will follow them to go and sell some wache over there.
How are you roping in the chiefs? And that was my final question. How are you roping in the chiefs and traditional authority in ensuring this? Because the rivers are in towns or villages managed by these chiefs. What's their role? Because the law doesn't include them. What's their role?
Their role is heavy. It's big. is huge. You know, they are the managers and the landowners of these water bodies, and then without them, we can't get ahead. So, even though the law does not rope them in, I think it's very important to engage them, to make them feel that this is their own. But you know, we are here to mitigate with them. It's a good policy to make sure that look, we are on the same page and safeguard the water quantity and quality for the nation.
Mr. Gabra, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's Mr.
Thank you.
Francis Gabra. He is the chairman of the National Union of Aquaculture Associations of Ghana.